Hello and welcome. AJ's Journey. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I've been very busy. So, the reason for AJ's Journey is to give pointers and maybe some relative things that you can relate to help you in your journey with Second Life. Real life and Second Life has a tendency to blend. I've been on SL 13 plus years now. Some people have been on Second Life, meaning they've been logging in regularly for many more years than me. It does bleed into your real life, and your real life does mix in with your Second Life. There's many pluses and minuses to Second Life. I'm going to kind of deal with where I'm coming from, and you'll find in your journey in Second Life that there are a high percentage of damaged people. I mean, it is said that Second Life is becoming a venue for older adults, and we've aged into SL, stayed with SL, been loyal to SL, and the people that it's attracting seems to be older people. Teenagers, I don't know. They don't cater to teenagers. We're supposed to all be adults here. Although you can role play a teenager, you can role play a toddler. However, in real life, these are adults. And Second Life has made no bones about the fact that it's an adult venue. That way we don't have problems with so many predators, especially child predators or people. However, I will say there are predatory people on Second Life, and if you've been here for a while, you've probably run across them, especially if you're a woman. Now, I know men can be manipulated just as well as women, but hey, I'm a woman, so I'm speaking from my perspective. In coming to SL, it was nice when I was new, especially I noticed I got lots of attention as a newbie at that time. You pop into a place and you get lots of IMs. Pretty sure I'm not alone in this if you're female. Lots of helpful people, but you have to be aware that sometimes those helpful people, the reason they're helpful is they have an ulterior motive. I must confess, my ulterior motive, much of the time, was to promote my sim and to get people to come in. If you popped around to other people's sims, you've noticed that a lot of them are empty. There used to be 58,000 people logged into Second Life at any given time. Now, if you look at the numbers of people when you log in, you're probably going to see something like 35, 37, maybe 41,000, and you have to kind of wonder how many of those are bots or fakes or alts parked somewhere that are showing online, but in reality, probably 2/3 of the numbers are accurate at any given time of who's logged in. So there's not really that many people given the size of the grid and as many sims as there are. My reason for coming to SL probably wouldn't be here if I was normal and really a great real life. My situation in real life's kind of odd, like everybody's is unique. I'm still dealing with the after effects and still living with it, actually, of being taken advantage of, verbally abused. Never really got into too much physical abuse other than a few bruises and bumps and pushing, yelling, screaming close up in my face, that sort of thing. most of it was just verbal and an explosive mood swing. I would be doing something, well, my first hint when I was dating real life, I hadn't dated much at all. Then when I started dating, this one guy sort of moved in and took over my time. He was always available. That time I didn't have a car, so I was relying on the bus. And he got to being at the bus stops, saying, "You want to ride home? It'll be quicker, whatever." And, of course, rather than wait another 20-30 minutes for a bus, we had gotten acquainted somewhat. I would take the ride. The first real clue was he got upset over something when we were talking on my front porch, and he threw a case clear across the yard. I mean, it was like a split-second change. I don't even know what had upset him or something. And next thing I know, there's a case with a bunch of stuff all over the yard. And I'm wondering, what happened? Of course, he made an excuse for it and picked up the stuff. The case was somewhat damaged, but I wasn't hurt or anything, and I don't think it was directed at me, although I don't even recall. It happened so fast. Time went on, and then I was young, going to college. Somebody else, well, I started having more friends and more interests, classmates, and yeah, a few males. Nothing serious or anything. I didn't even go out with them. It was more like chat after classes or talking about homework or what something was said in the class that we didn't really understand, that we would like share what we thought. And this guy, I will just call him B, as in boy. Turns out not too far wrong, because I felt like I was raising him later on in our relationship. He would see this and say something about, see it from across the campus or something, and come up and say, "Oh, well, who was that?" and that kind of thing. Well, I just thought it was conversation at that time. Oh, that's a friend that shares the same class, that type of thing. To make a long story longer, we ended up dating, getting engaged, and later married. There would be incidents that would happen, but they were spaced out, so you don't think too much of it. One incident was I had hung up laundry, and he was wearing button-down shirts at the jobs that he had at that particular time, and t-shirts underneath them. Well, I always had trouble buttoning the very tippy-top button, the little tiny one on the shirt, so I didn't button the tippy-top button when I put it on the hanger. I just buttoned it the next button down and went down button, put on the hanger. He went to get the shirt out, and he ripped the shirt off the hanger, exploded, and said, "I can't wear this shit. This wrinkles if you don't button the top button." And he tore the shirt up. And I thought, wow, I'd never experienced anything like that over, a top button. And in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, most people wouldn't react that way, but maybe some people do. So different little things would happen. I would try to do it, hyper vigilant about whether it was buttoning a shirt or cooking a meal whatever it might be, running an errand. Anyway, needless to say, it got worse and worse. And the verbal abuse was, "You're so controlling, you think you're so smart. I'm so sick of your family's mentality," and those sorts of things. If we had a gathering at his folks' house, well, I would be attentive, listen to the conversations. Granted, I was a quiet person. I tried to contribute or chat. If he went to a gathering of my family, he would sulk or lean back in a chair and go to sleep. Or he'd stay for a few minutes and then he'd leave. And he'd say, "Well, I just get tired, I just go to sleep," kind of thing. "I'm not really that interested." And I am thinking, if you're with your significant other's family, don't you at least, if you're going to be there a couple hours, 3 hours, is it too much to ask that you stay awake? Or at least feign interest in somebody's conversation every now and then? That's my conclusion. I thought, well, that's just, him. Then I realized later, it's like, I'm too good for them. Or look how great or what I've accomplished. I had those in my family that had accomplishments, like I'm sure you've got in your family. I didn't have all that great of achievements myself, but I respected those that did get further education, had successes in business, devoted themselves to like nursing or some, specific field. And yet he would if somebody would bring up a conversation about something, well, he had to one-up them. After years, I realized, just what has he accomplished? I have always tried to devote myself to keeping things on level. He wasn't very good about managing money, so I just naturally edged into that. At one point, through business ventures and changed jobs, he almost lost our house for us, and I had to get an extra income, and he refinanced the house. Those sorts of things came up. If somebody had an accident or got sick, well, the next week he was sick or had an accident. It was bigger or better than them, it seemed like. If I needed a new piece of clothing and got a new piece of clothing, brought it home, I always counted my pennies because we didn't have much discretionary funds, if any. And he'd look at that and he said, "Well, why'd you buy that? I need this, I need that." And it would be an insult that how dare I even buy me something that I needed to wear to work on my own without consulting him. So those sorts of things kept repeating themselves over and over. Over many years, things like that would crop up. It started eating away at my ego, my thoughts of myself, what I thought of myself, because I would hear his voice in the back of my head. "You think you're so smart. You think you're so good. Where have you been? Why have you been there? Why'd you bought that? I need this." Those things all the time. And just as innuendos, he made it very clear that household responsibilities were mine, the cooking was mine. He wasn't very good with money, so he gave that over to me, basically. Otherwise, we'd been in more financial trouble. And then he would accuse me of different things. Years later, I told him, I said, "You've had it pretty lucky. haven't had any medical problems. You've had a bunch. I understand that. But I've always done my own hair, my own nails. I never went to a beautician to have my hair cut or anything. I think I did get a perm or go a couple times, but my mother, she said, if you take me, I'll pay for yours kind of deal. So it sure wasn't on his shoulders in any way, shape, or form. Yet. And he could flirt with women, but, get all handsy. He had anger management classes throughout the year, and he'd make fun of them. He got in trouble several times for being a little bit too handsy with co-workers he worked with and things like that. One year he had 5 different W-2 forms. Never his fault, of course. Multiple car wrecks throughout. And then he would insult me. Well, I drive better than you do, kind of deal. Yeah, he was the one totaling out cars. So, that sort of thing. Well, what does all this have to do with Second Life? When I came to Second Life, I discovered that there are men that do insult women. They get close to them and they're all like love bombing you, saying the right things. And when they start changing, you realize words are cheap here in Second Life. To voice, you have more indicators what the person is like by their words. If you're just strictly going by chat, that can be misunderstood. 2, you have to keep in mind that people can just log off and it's easy to say all the right things. But after you know them for a while, they're going to start dropping clues of what their real thoughts and the real behind-the-scenes mentality is. I would say be watchful for that, especially if you come from a damaged background. Don't repeat it. Once is enough. My experience gave me a jaded view of men in general. However, I will say about my real life ex, it made me hyper vigilant when I did come to SL because I would pick up on cues that people said, maybe a little bit more hypersensitive than the average person would be. I do care deeply and I don't write people off. That's not necessarily a good trait to have because I'm more empathetic maybe. I hold on to people that I shouldn't. And I still leave them, close to my heart when they don't deserve to be there. I'm still fighting those inclinations because you can be taken advantage of. I tell you all this to tell you, be wary, be cautious, and I can't say that often enough because there are people, SL gives you a vast array of people to deal with, whether it's people in China, Pakistan, Canada, United States, Brazil, Germany, India. I could go on and on. People are people, yes. But ask yourself every now and then, what do I really know for sure about this person? And if they're asking you to share more than you're willing to share, don't do it. Go with your gut and tell them, I'm not comfortable sharing that. And I had one person in SL that I really liked, and they started threatening with me, well, you need to share more real. When they started doing that, I knew our relationship days were numbered in Second Life, because I wasn't willing to step over that boundary because that person wasn't sharing much. And I had to ask myself, what do I really know about them? So, having said all that, that's where I come from. And yeah, sort of damaged goods. Many people are in Second Life. whether they be stalkers, predators, just mean people, or too giving, too kind. I mean, keep it simple. Second life is what you make it, and you don't want it to turn into a disaster, because I look at it as recreation, a therapy, a way of getting away. I don't want it all messed up, if you get my drift. So I ask you to do the same. Maybe my sharing has helped you a little bit. I hope so. And if you want to, please be sure you like, subscribe, and comment about your experiences. Keep it nice. I appreciate that. Until next time.